How are you lads? So I was in London recently and I was hearing little murmurs about a new stout that could possibly rival Guinness. So I had to investigate. Guru investigates. These trips unfortunately don't come cheap, lads. Talking flights, accommodation, food, pints, most importantly. And so this video is sponsored by the lads, the one and only Manscaped. They've just launched the Ultra Smooth package, the USP, in Europe. It's a 3-step process to getting smooth old balls. First, grab your Lawnmower 4.0 and get it down to that 1 or 2 all over. Then step 1, your crop exfoliator. Infused with ingredients that can soothe and keep the skin all around your balls and groin nice and smooth. Keep that groinage feeling refreshed. Then step 2, you lash on the crop gel. It's got 4 essential oils. It's like a spa treatment every time you shave. Step 3, time to shave. The crop shaver was designed to shave the groinal area with confidence. The razor has 3 precision blades, including extra wide lubricating strips, and a pivoting head for the ultimate groin grooming experience. And as always, you can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code PINTS20. Just go to manscaped.com. The link is in the description. Now sit back, relax, put the feet up and watch as Guru investigates. What's the crack, lads? I am currently in central London. I have come to check out this place, Anspach and Hobday. A few people sent me a video of this stuff, this really well made video. I can't remember the guy's name, I'll link it here. I think the name of the video was, Is London Black Better Than Guinness? So it's basically, it's a new nitro stout and rumour has it, it's decent. I do fear that it's gonna taste like, my taste buds are terrible. Guinness Guru, you think they'd be great. My prediction would be it's just gonna be like that roasted coffee. I know Guinness has those kind of flavors, but I just find all these other craft kind of stouts have those flavors in abundance. Let's see what happens.
So this first beer, the porter, is 6.7%. It's got black malt, chocolate malt, bit of amber in there. We went quite heavily hopped, which was not very much trying to evoke the past of London, which of course at one point was the largest city for brewing in the world, and at that time porters are what everyone was drinking. That was named after the workers who did all the ferrying and drank it. It was basically a brown ale.
Oh, that's where the word porter comes from.
Yeah, from the workers.
Brilliant.
So this is the sort of origin.
Yeah.
And we were a bit cheeky, entered it into a few competitions and started winning medals, and then did some crowdfunding and got going from there, really.
Right, lads, just going to do a little voiceover for this part. So this is Courtney, the fellow working there. You just out of shot, well, you can't see, but the nozzle, you know, like a Guinness tap would have a big massive lever. The nozzle is very small. It's only like you kind of just pull it like 1 or 2 inches towards yourself. Something I noticed was the settling time was very quick. I think on a Guinness you're talking like a minute and a half. You kind of, you know, they leave it sit there proud, all that marketing bollocks. Sit there proud on the bar, watch it surge, watch it settle. This one kind of settled after probably like 15-20 seconds. But it looks good so far. They've got the old style tulip glasses, tiny bit wider on the bottom, you might notice. And then yeah, it looks about right in terms of, compared to Guinness, where you would pour it up to. Then there's no option to push it forward, you just push it towards yourself again. Going for the domage test now. He kind of pulls out a little bit early, but then adds a couple of drips. That's up for debate. Some people will be against that. Some people would say once you pull out, you've pulled out, that's it, no dipping back in. And then again, I noticed it settled quite quick, which isn't a good or bad thing, it's just an observation. Something I was saying to Jack, the co-founder, was like, I'd nearly be telling the customers, like I'd be kind of edging them to kind of take the first sip very quick, because I find with this, or even with a Guinness, that first sip has to be taken as it's just settled, and then there's a window of only probably like less than 30 seconds until it starts to go, until it starts to decline. Who came up with the name?
We'd brewed it in lockdown.
Yeah.
It was a bit of development, and Paul Anspach and I and the team were upstairs trying the first batch of this, and we had a big old session about what we wanted it to be about. We knew that obviously, going from the fact we're a London brewery, we wanted it to have the provenance. and we wanted it to be clear what it was. So
Well, that's a great name. Very straight to the point. Thank you very much.
cheers.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, so automatically for me, I guess it's just because I don't have that developed palate for the kind of more craft stuff, like that is just so much more my cup of tea than this. Do you know what I mean? Genuinely enjoy that. And I felt like maybe it was in my nose still from this, but once before I sipped it, I was like, oh, here we go. It's just got all those same really strong flavors. Then once I sipped it, I thought, I think it's just the drinkability, the lightness of it, or maybe not words you'd use, but it just goes down very easily. And that's all I want. As a non-craft beer drinker, that's all I want, is just something that goes down easily, and that is lovely. Obviously we could sit here all day talking about like a likeness to Guinness, but as a standalone product, it's probably I've only had one sip of it, but it's probably the nicest, apart from Guinness, that I've tried.
Well, strong praise indeed. Thank you.
Well,
That'll mean a lot to the team.
yeah, no, it's actually lovely, because I just find, like, and this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but I've tried Beamish, Murphy's, even Conor McGregor made his own stuff, the Black Forge, and there's the Island's Edge, which Heineken brought out. For me, they all are just they've all got too much of the flavours that are in that, in terms of really roast. I just get really roasted, borderline burnt flavours off some of them, whereas I could drink pints and pints of that.
It's a little more chocolatey, which there is an interplay definitely with it being on nitro, and that changes the aroma and it changes the flavour profile a bit. But it's a very similar recipe. Obviously it's dialed back a bit. This is 4.4%, so it's much more of a sessionable.
Yeah, that's the word I saw on the thing. What was Joe? Joe sent me, and the big yoke, and the main word that comes across is sessionable, which I'd never seen used, that word, but I think it describes, that's probably my number one thing I look for in a beer, is it's sessionable, because that just means you can drink it easily, you know?
Yeah, and you're having several with your mates.
See the glass, so it's very similar to a Guinness glass, but I know, would I be right in saying the bottom comes out a little bit? So what would you call that glass?
So this is still a tulip.
A tulip?
A tulip, yeah.
Just
It's just the style of
different.
it. This is from a maker called Rastal, who are based in Germany. They just do very good quality glassware, and then the prints. And this was the first glass we've made for this beer, which was only launched April last year, so it's quite new. I think they've done a really good job on that.
It looks great.
It's interesting. I think, to be fair, it's a nod to the tradition. We didn't want to try and put it in a new glass that's like it's still at the end of the day just a porter.
No, I think it's the right call, because like even there's all the other stouts in Ireland, those ones that I mentioned, Beamish, Murphy's, even the Conor McGregor stout, all uses the tulip glass. And then, have you heard of Island's Edge?
Only briefly.
No one I talked over here has even heard of it, so I don't know what Heineken are doing with their marketing. But
they obviously haven't gone for it here, because I heard of the release of it. That's why I know of it, but I've not tried it.
Well, like, they've got this big tall glass. It's got like the logo is like orange and blue and white and colourful. So they've completely said like, we're going rogue, and I just don't. I think it's backfired, to be honest. But so with Guinness, you would say typical bartender being trained in, pour to the harp, let it settle, and then go again. Is there any sort of these lines?
Ritual there?
Are they strategically placed or no?
We're just developing that. As I was saying earlier, we realised the importance of the two-part pour. Certainly there's something happening with flavour, but on top of that, it's allowing you to create that really great domage, which is obviously a trademark for Guinness, but is ultimately an attractive pint. People want to see that. So the two-part pour is
great when they came over, like
key, but I think you can achieve it from different levels. So I think it's most important to just educate the person behind the bar to say, look, you're aiming for a really good dome. we're not going to micromanage how you achieve that necessarily. But I mean, if someone wants to use a line as a guide, I don't think you're going anything too wrong with that.
But I would say one thing, not advice, because I'm not someone for giving advice, but if I was to say what I would look for if I came in here, things I would hope for, things I wouldn't want, when for me the key to a good dome is like, if you get the good dome but anything spills down the side, then it's like null and void.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's such a regular thing for like all other beers and ales, is if it's coming down the side, that's totally acceptable, totally fine.
Right.
But for me, just from my Guinness experience, that's why you appreciate the unbelievable dome, because you just know, you see like that bartender has gone just as far as he can go and then pulled out at the perfect time so that it's got the dome but it hasn't spilt.
Right.
That's just
that's,
if I was coming in here and I was looking for,
that's really interesting.
I would
I'll take that on board. I think we're obviously very much a craft brewery, and in the craft beer world, I think it's become quite fashionable to, especially for your Instagram shots or whatever, to actually over pour a beer.
I know.
Have it coming down the side.
But I guarantee you, if I posted a picture and I said, I'm trying this London Black, and it was coming down the side, every comment would be, that's over poured, it's spilt.
Yeah,
because I think with Guinness, and this as well, because it's a bit thicker, you can have the dome on top, and you can still, like, a decent bartender you can still carry it.
Yeah.
And they'll plonk it down, and and that's why it's so aesthetically pleasing, because it just looks perfect.
It's an interesting one. I'll we'll bear that in mind. I'll certainly brief the guys.
No, that's not.
No, it's good. It's good advice. I think to some point we ultimately aren't afraid of being different from Guinness, because we're not trying to be Guinness. So it's okay if. I think what you've got to have is the standard, and for me that's making sure that I think you definitely want that domage. You want really good, clean lines, well looked after, decent head, ultimately fresh. And I think that goes back to my question about where does Guinness taste best, is that I've got full respect for Guinness all over the place, and certainly there are some great pubs in London doing it, but I think this is our chance to have a sort of local, where perhaps ultimately this wouldn't taste as good in Ireland, and that's fair enough. But we're in London, so
no,
that's our sort of take on it. It's
a great product, and my final note would be I do still get it's good. It doesn't taste exactly like Guinness, and again we're going on about Guinness. You're not trying to replicate Guinness. It doesn't taste exactly like Guinness, so that's a positive. I still get the sort of those extra notes that I just find Guinness is very just like, it's just very drinkable. You smell it. You nearly don't smell that much, because it's just I don't think that any of the notes are that strong. I still get a little bit of what I was saying about the other stouts on this, but nowhere near as much. And too much of it is way too strong for me. It's a perfect mix, perfect blend, and I think it's a standalone. It's not that similar to Guinness, but it's the most drinkable stout I have found that's not Guinness so far.
Cheers for that.
Cheers. Yeah.